turned 13. Personal note. When I was a little kid, my mother told me not to stare into the sun. So once when I was 6, I did. The doctors didn't know if my eyes would ever heal. I was terrified. Alone in that darkness. Slowly, daylight crept in through the bandages, and I could see. But something else had changed inside me. That day I had my first headache.
Welcome to this 5th episode of Talking South, and today we will look at the past, present and future of Arctic sea ice. And let's start with the past, shall we? So you can see on the right side here you have the 10-year average for sea ice volume, and down here it says you are here, so we are clearly at the lowest point of the graph so far. And you know, there's a lot of talk about tipping points these days, and I'm not sure if you can help me, but the IPCC, the UN Climate Panel, has defined tipping point as the start of an irreversible trend towards a new state. And in the case of sea ice, Arctic sea ice, that would be the start of a decline that will not, due to the irreversible bit, it will not stop until there is no ice left. No ice floating on the sea in the Arctic left. So if you can help me here, on this graph, can you see somewhere where this graph starts going down? Maybe 2000? No. Seems it was already going down before 2000, and it just keeps going down after 2000. So what about 2010? In 2010, it's the same story. It was going down before 2010, and it's still going down after 2010. So no. 2015? No, not really. So maybe somewhere down here in the future, maybe it will start, maybe this graph will start going down when you get to 2020, 2030. What do you say? So, I don't want to give away the correct answer, but you can sort of see that it's already going down. So, but in any case, the whole scientific community, the United Nations, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, they are talking about, they are sort of warning about a future tipping point for sea ice that may come, in this part of the timeline in the future. So why would it be important, if the tipping point is here or in the future, in the past or right now? Well, the thing about having ice caps on the planet, in the North Pole and in the South, is that it regulates the temperature on the planet. So the ice caps used to, expand and retract, go back and forth in the so-called ice ages, or the glaciations. And the Arctic sea ice used to be like several meters thick, like 5, 10, even more meters thick in our past. But after we pass the tipping point, somewhere at about 0.5 degrees above pre-industrial temperatures, global temperatures, it has gone down and 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 down. So now it's like maybe 1 to 2 meters thick in the winter, and much thinner in the summer. And so the thing about having a fairly stable temperature, which humans have experienced in the past 10 to 20,000 years, is that it allows us to have something called agriculture, where we grow food. And you know that you can't just take your field where you grow food and run away if there is a bad season or a thunderstorm or a flood or a drought. It's sort of stuck in the same place. So farmers and agriculturists are very reliant on having some kind of predictable weather and climate, and that goes away when the Arctic sea ice goes away. So you would think that on a planet of almost 8 billion people, somebody would care about where the tipping point, where the point of no return is for the Arctic sea ice, because that's sort of the point of no return for the climate and global warming, and as a consequence it's the point of no return for the collapse of this human civilization on the planet. Yeah, so a lot of people talk about the first week in September in this year or next 5 years where you have absolutely no sea ice, or less than 1 million square kilometers. But that would be a point on this line, and you can see it's already going down. I don't know how good your eyesight is, or if you're wearing glasses or not, or your glasses are not tuned to your eyes, but you should be able to see this this blue line here. And for the colorblind people out there, this line is blue, not that it matters. You know, it's already going down. So you know, getting to like say September this year or 2020 next year, and having no ice for a week or so, it will only be like the 2000 point. It's already going down before 2000, and it starts going down after 2000, or before the Blue Ocean event and after the Blue Ocean event. So yeah, I think you know what I'm trying to say here. The Blue Ocean event will be like a photo op, a Kodak moment, a press event, but it will not be a tipping point, because this graph clearly already tipped many decades ago. And if you ask, say, psychologists, they'll tell you, and even some climate activists will actually tell you that, oh no, you shouldn't show this graph to anyone really, at least not to any human beings, because it's not very motivating for their struggle. Okay, so their struggle is more important than the truth of the matter, of the thing we are talking about and fighting over. I don't know. So I go with the slogan of the Extinction Rebellion, which is to tell the truth, and this is a huge part of the truth, is that avoiding the tipping point of sea ice, that would be a good idea, like for our grandparents or parents. But today this is a lost cause, because it's already this has already gone south, gone downhill, as you can see. So if you talk to some other groups of people like deep ecologists or conservation biologists, they will some of them will actually tell you that maybe this is a good thing, that the sea ice is disappearing and the climate collapse of human civilization is catching up and going full speed ahead, because there are some other signs that we are not the best keepers of this planet, to put it mildly, and the theft of living area of all the other species on the planet, the plants and the animals and the fish and the insects and whatever, is being intruded on every week and every year these days. And the main engine behind biodiversity loss of diversity in life forms, is that we take the areas where they used to live from them. So clearly, if the civilization collapses, that mechanism will stop, and you will have see the opposite thing happening with the wild species taking back the areas that civilization and human beings had occupied, even recently, but also for thousands and thousands of years. So you will see, the rewilding of Rome and Paris and New York and London. This is not, depending on who you ask, this is not necessarily the end of the world, literally. It could be a fantastic start of a new world, but we would have to lose all the ice first, and the process will, according to the IPCC, the process will just go on until all the ice, including Greenland and Antarctica, is totally melted out, and then maybe there is a new stable kind of climate after that, and with a different share of the cake for human beings. You won't be the only or the dominating species when that new stable climate is here. Okay, and let's leave the past for a while and go to the present. And here you can see this is the melt season average. That's about a month of days that are averaged. And so you can see the current average here on the right. And 2019 is the fifth lowest of these, but we're sort of neck and neck with 2018, with last year, almost the same average volume for the melt season since late April as last year. And 2017 was the lowest year ever for Arctic sea ice volume, so that's way, way, way below all of these four next ones. And on the dotted lines, there is something, not the same thing. It's the blue dotted line is 2019 daily volume, which means it's not an average. It's just the day-to-day measurements. And the other dotted line is 2010s. That's the 2010 decade average. So all years from 2010 to 2019 averaged. So of course these 5 lowest years are lower than the average, and then you will have the other 5 years of the 2010s will be higher than the 2010 average. That's quite logical. 2019 volume till now for the entire 2019 is like 6th lowest, and on the melt season average since it started melting, it's the 5th lowest. So it's sort of speeding up compared to the entire year. Okay, and you can also see that the level, even though if you don't know a lot about Arctic sea ice and volume, you can see sort of the levels, because when this graph started, when we started measuring sea ice from satellites in 79, and we got the first 10-year average, we were at about 33,500 cubic kilometers, and that's like above this upper line here. That's the average for the entire year. So you can see that all of these years in this decade, 2010s, they even at their maximum, at their highest volume in the year, they are lower than quite a lot lower than the all-year average, 40 years ago. So that's interesting, because in the all year you also have the summer melt and the autumn melt. And of course, since we started at the high point, these graphs will go quite a lot further down below, way below 20, and the dotted line, the daily ice for 2019, will probably end up lower than 5 on this scale, 5,000 cubic kilometers. So that's that. It's not we're not the lowest year ever for sea ice volume, but it's like in the top 5, which is almost every year now is in the top 5 lowest. So what everybody seems to be asking on Facebook and all the social media is like, how long have we got? How long till blah blah blah? And so their emphasis is on how long, and not necessarily on how long until what. So let's look at how long, and let's look at the future, which is the next slide. Okay, so in my answer to the how long, I answer when we will have 6 months or a half year of Arctic BOE, Blue Ocean Event. That's like a half a year of ice-free, and the technical limit for ice-free set by the UN is like less than 1 million square kilometers, which translates approximately to less than 1,000 cubic kilometers, which is the volume. So in this model, the Good Hope model, which I have developed myself, I don't give one estimate for when this when chaos erupts, because we have a 6-month ice-free, and everybody starts, feeling the loss of food and clean water, because every climate system is going crazy. So I don't give one particular answer. I use 10 different, let's call them sub-models. All the averages, the average losses from 1 year loss, which is loss year over year for 1 year, to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 10 year. And what I do then is that let's say for the 10 year, which is the longest average I use, I calculate the average volume for 3,650 days, which is every day in a decade. And then I compare that to the decade before that and see how big a reduction you get there. And assuming the reduction would go on in a linear way down to zero, down to no ice for half a year, the model comes out with the year 2040 for the 10-year sub model. And you also have shorter time frames like 2027 for the 2-year model and 2023 for the 1-year model. And recently the 3-year went up from 2035 to 36, which should be, I don't know, should be good news for the people who want to keep the ice and want to keep running this all destroying civilization. Maybe bad news for the people who love forests and animals and plants and flowers and insects and frogs and amphibians and you know, the nature types, the tree huggers and deep ecologists. But otherwise it's fairly stable because these are such long averages, and it takes a long time for them to change in either way. So you have the 8-year model is giving 2039 as the collapse point. And I should also remember to emphasize that 1 or 2 years after the first half-year Arctic Blue Ocean event, it is expected to have disappeared completely, that you have no ice for the full year. But you know, is that 2 years or 3 years or 5 years? No one knows. But you know, when you come to the half-year point, it's certainly not good news for the polar bears and not good news for the farmers. Yeah, so that's about it. I'll leave you with the what's that called again? The school strike. It's a For Future thing. Fight for Future. And anyway, I leave you with my own footage from the Friday for Future school strikes here in Greenland, here in Nuuk, Greenland. And if you don't understand Greenlandish, which many people don't, just listen to the strange strange words and strange language, and rejoice that the kids are finally waking up to our predicament. Okay. Bye.
1722. Personal note. When I was a little kid, my mother told me not to stare into the sun. So once when I was 6, I did.